Yeah, okay, that's much better. Good morning. With the first leak of POE2's early access winding down, I thought it would be a good thing to prepare for the upcoming patch by checking out some builds that might seem pretty off meta now, but are really fun to play and could be something to use after all the expected balance changes will hit with the POE2 update that is coming on April 4th. So this video will be the first of a series I will continue into the next few weeks, starting here with the Ice Nova cast on crit build. I've separated this build into two setups, one for mapping and one for bossing. So let's start with the mapping setup here. For this build, I've decided to go with a gemling here. I do truly believe that this build works on pretty much every single character. I do think on a gemling it will be the highest damage due to the possibilities of instacking here, the improved capabilities of instacking on a gemling. So it enables us to scale our damage super good with the help of Arcane Intensity here, Pure Power, and also of course Archmage. That is due to the improved capabilities of instacking on a gemling. We reach over 800 intelligence here, over 11,000 mana, which just scales our damage much nicer than on some of the other classes. I do believe this is possible on pretty much all the classes though. We are of course res capped. For this mapping setup, I have a movement speed modifier of 55%. So we are super fast on this character, which is very good to have for mapping in my opinion. So how do I reach this movement speed? I have corrupted magic jewels with 2% movement speed on every single one here, except for some mana on kill here for these ones for mapping, but every single other jewel here is an emerald with 2% movement speed. Of course, then I am using a adorned. My adorned is 96. You don't need that. You don't need an adorned with 96. You just need an adorned with 50 to reach the 3% threshold for every single movement speed jewel here. So 50% adorned is totally fine. So that is the mapping setup here. Let's go over the gear next. The gear is same for both versions. On the one slot, you basically have the choice between two different things here. You can use a wand with cold spells, of course. You can also use a wand with lightning spells as well here. Your main damage when mapping is going to be the Greater Lightning Bolt from the Choir of the Storm here. So you can either go with a wand that has lightning spell skills that improves the damage of your Greater Lightning Bolt, or you just go with a wand with cold spell skills, so that increases the damage of the Nova. Both work just as well. I think for mapping, the cold spells skills is a little bit better, just because you can scale the Nova damage a little bit better. And for me, it was a little bit noticeably better when mapping. For bossing, most of the time I'm using the lightning spell skills wand because that is increasing the damage on the Greater Lightning Bolt. So this is those are the options you have in the one slot here. Helmet is just a normal helmet here. You always want intelligence when you can get it on an item. You want res cap, of course. I am going with rarity here as well. We are reaching the rarity threshold of 100 here for mapping. Of course, we absolutely need that. So that is an important thing as well. So normal helmet. We are also using a Choir of the Storm here, of course. Next thing is going to be a scepter. You also need a scepter with at least 200 spirit. We want at least 290 spirit. I have 320 here because I'm also using the 30 extra for the use of Arctic armor. You don't need Arctic armor, it's not needed, but it is a nice bonus if you can get it. So you need at least 290. In this case, I have 320. So a scepter with 200 or like 190 spirit or 220 spirit in this case. You also want intelligence here. You want maximum mana again. Some mana rec if you can get it. Yeah. Next thing, first a ring. I'm getting a ring with a lot of intelligence here. Also rarity, also mana, also cast speed, and more all res, of course. Next thing, very crucial to the build, a attribute mana warrior, of course. We are attribute stacking, we are in stacking here. We're also mana stacking, so this goes in tandem with all of the before mentioned stuff here. So this is very crucial to the build. Next thing I'm using here is a Dream Fragments. You don't need a Dream Fragments. A second Breach Ring, a very good second Breach Ring with just the same stats here, just works just as well. Next thing is going to be the gloves here. Again, intelligence, maximum mana, rarity, and res. Next thing is an ingenuity. Like I said before, I'm using a 94 here. Again, you don't need 94. 80 is totally fine. You can definitely make it work on a lower level here as well. This is all just the stuff that I'm using. You don't need to go as high as I do here. Next thing is going to be boots. Again, intelligence, 2 reses, and maximum mana in this case. How am I reaching res cap here? Mostly it's due to gear. If you have reses that need to be capped, go for it on the jewels. So you can have jewels with the corruption for res. That is a good way to cap your reses as well. We are also using a controlled metamorphosis, so we are losing some res here. So if you are unable to res cap through your gear, get it through the jewels here. So this is the gear setup for both versions. In my case, you don't really need to change gear in order to change to the bossing version. So yeah, next thing is going to be the skill gems for the mapping version. Okay, skill gems for mapping. Greater Lightning Bolt, I am using Considered Casting, Concentrated Effect, Spell Cascade, and Ingenuity. This enables us to have a very low cooldown on all the Greater Lightning Bolts. Every time we cast Nova, every time something gets hit by the Nova and crits, we trigger the Lightning Bolts and we cascade the Lightning Bolts. This just enables us to clear the map very, very easily. So Greater Lightning Bolt is going to be our #1 clear tool here. Next, of course, to Ice Nova and the Comets. So Ice Nova, I'm using Arcane Tempo, I'm using Magnified Effect, Cold Mastery, Spell Cascade, and Mobility. On the first cast on critical, I'm using Frostbolt, Scattershot, Acceleration, Impetus, and Ambush here. On the next cast on critical, so overall we are using 2 cast on criticals here. Next thing is going to be the Comet. You can also use, if you want for mapping, you can also use Frostwall, for example. You can also use a second Ice Nova, for example. I have decided to go with Comets here because I just visually like it more, and I think they're amazing for clearing. So this is going to be socketed in with Spell Echo, with Magnified Effect for even more clearing. Once the Comets go down and they echo due to the Spell Echo, everything just gets cleared in a wide range, because we're also using Area of Effect on both our passive tree here and on our jewels here. We have some jewels with Area of Effect that is going to enable us to have more area effect on both the Comets and the Ice Nova. So the Ice Nova has a area of effect of 5 meters. So you can see it here. Once I cast it and it cascades, it's just basically filling most of the screen. So everything just in the vicinity gets hit, it gets crit, and this is how we trigger the Frostbolts on the first cast on crit, and these Frostbolts trigger again the next cast on critical, which is Comets in this case. So this is how we clear the map very, very easily. I'm using also Arctic Armor with an inevitable critical, I can never say this, Glaciation and Bludgeon. This just makes us pretty much immortal. The most mana drain we get, and life is also our mana here in this Mind Over Matter build. The most mana drain I get from the Comets, of course, so you do have to watch your mana, but in the maps itself, nothing really damages you. That is why Arctic Armor is also amazing, and it also contributes to our cast on critical, because when mobs hit us, they not only get knocked back due to bludgeon, but they also get damage, which is very likely to crit with inevitable critical on the Arctic Armor. So for bossing, I'm also using Eye of Winter with Strip Away, with Unleash, with Cold Exposure, Lightning Exposure, and Deceleration. That is when we're going for a boss here. Sorry for this guy right here. For when we are going for a boss, we just place Frost Walls in front of the boss, and then we just shoot our Eye of Winter. We trigger both of our cast on criticals multiple times. We also trigger the Greater Lightning Bolts. This is how we absolutely annihilate bosses in this case. So Eye of Winter with Strip Away, Unleash, Cold Exposure, Lightning Exposure, and Deceleration. Archmage with Clarity in this case, and for the weapon swap, I'm also using Sigil of Power, of course, on this one. And I'm also using 2 Skeletal Clerics who I use for Soul Offering here for even more damage increase. On Soul Offering, we're using Ablation, Danza Macabre, and Persistence. And on the manually placed Frost Wall, I'm using Fortress and Icicle in this case. So this is the skill gem setup for the fast mapping version with high movement speed. Okay, passive tree. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we are using an Adorned. Like I said as well, if you want this high movement speed version just for mapping, you can get any Adorned that gets your movement speed of the 2% to 3%, and then you just fill up your space with jewels with movement speed. We are also using a Against the Darkness time lost with increased mana and intelligence in this slot here. This setup for the tree is also using movement speed here and also using movement speed here. So this setup is just tuned towards fast mapping. So we are using blink, of course, on weapon swap. So we are pretty fast. We're running very fast. We can blink very fast. So this is very, very mobile, this build, while mapping. And it's just super satisfying and easy to play. And very, very fast without the use of Temporalis or without the use of Tempest Flurry. I think this is basically as fast as you can get on a normal level here, with also the use of blink, of course. So when we're not mapping, I'm taking off these ones for Wildstorm and also this one here. So when I'm actually changing to the bossing setup, I am using different jewels here. Of course, we are not using an Adorned anymore. Once I'm switching to the bossing setup, I am using these jewels right here, which is going to be like spell damage, cast speed, elemental damage, but also you want as much crit and crit bonus as possible. So this is a perfect example here. Spell damage, critical hit chance, critical damage bonus, and area of effect. That is also something you can use here. So once I'm going into bossing, I just refund these points right here. And also these ones. And then I'm going into the bossing setup with these nodes right here. And also I'm going into Wildstorm, just to improve all single target damage for bossing. Next, I will go over the skill gems for bossing. So for bossing, I am using a different setup. Like I mentioned before, I now changed all my jewels into different jewels here. The basic gist of it is you want jewels with crit bonus, spell damage, elemental damage, and maybe even some cast speed. So these are all the jewels that I'm using now. I'm not using an Adorned anymore, and I'm also not using the acceleration passives here, and also not using the Kite Runner. Instead, I'm going into Wildstorm here and going into controlling magic on this one. So all the jewels for the bossing setups are basically the same. Spell damage, critical hit chance, critical damage bonus, and elemental damage. Whatever you can get here. So with this bossing setup and the different skill gems, the Greater Lightning Bolt now has a DPS tooltip here of 1.6 million with a critical hit chance of 42 and 429 critical damage bonus. So it absolutely melts bosses. I'm using Consider Casting, Concentrated Effect, Elemental Focus, and Lightning Mastery. What you can also do is get out a Lightning Mastery and you just use one Ingenuity. That is something I have seen a lot of people use as well because it reduces the cooldown on the lightning bolts. It can help as well. I'm just going with the most damage possible in this one. So we are at a damage of 1.6 million and every hit is just as big as possible. And as you have seen in the beginning of the video and as you can see on my stream, this just basically one-shots AT4 Xesht like that. So Ice Nova is unchanged. We don't need it for bosses. First cast on critical with Frostbolts is unchanged as well. The second cast on critical for bosses is still going to be Comet. You can also use Frostballs here. But for Comet, it is going to be Spell Echo, Concentrated Effect, Elemental Focus, and Energy Retention. So on top of the Greater Lightning Bolt damage, it's going to be the Comets as well. Everything else is unchanged. We are using Eye of Winter with Strip Away, Unleash, cold exposure, lightning exposure, and deceleration. So the basic rotation for now for doing a boss here is going to be we plop down Sigil of Power, we get our Soul Offering, we get down some ice walls here, some frost walls in this case, and then we just shoot our Eye of Winter, which procs our cast on crit, and then it just keeps raining down comets and keeps raining down greater lightning bolts onto the boss until he's dead, which is going to be very fast with this build, depending on your budget. Okay, this has been both of the setups. That is going to conclude this video on the Ice Nova cast on crit build here. So this build is definitely a little bit off meta. There are probably a lot of different builds using Spark, Temporalis, Tempest Flurry, whatever, that outperform this build by a mile. This was not the goal here. This build is supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be maybe not get hit by the nerf hammer as hard as some of the other builds in the next updates. So also, I have been having so much fun just playing this build. I think it's a nice, cool, and satisfying way to map right now, and also to just kill bosses at this time. So if you have any questions about this build, you can comment to my stream. I stream every day, Monday to Friday, every single day at the same time. So if you want to comment to the stream, ask some questions, participate, join the community, my Twitch stream is linked in the description here. So I hope this was fun for you. I hope some of you want to replicate this and have fun playing this build. If you do, let me know. If you have any suggestions, let me know as well. Other than that, I will stop yapping now. Have a good one. See ya. Bye. Love you.